My name is Sarah, and I'm about to tell you how my own sister tried to sabotage my wedding day because she couldn't stand that I was finally getting the attention she'd always craved. What started as sibling jealousy turned into the most devastating betrayal of my life, one that exposed a family secret that changed everything forever. I should have known something was wrong when my sister Jessica volunteered to be my maid of honor. For 28 years, Jessica had made it clear that she was the beautiful one, the successful one, the daughter who deserved to be the center of attention. She was a successful real estate agent with a six-figure income, a luxury condo, and a different designer handbag for every occasion. Meanwhile, I was just a librarian who'd finally found love with Michael, a kind-hearted teacher who saw past my quiet nature to the person I really was. But Jessica offering to help plan my wedding? That should have been my first red flag. "Oh, honey, you know I have such better taste than you," she'd said with that practiced smile she'd perfected for her real estate clients. "Plus, I have connections everywhere. I can get you deals you'd never find on your own pathetic budget." The comment stung, but I was so desperate to have a sister who actually supported me that I ignored the cruelty wrapped in her offer to help. For our entire lives, Jessica had been the golden child, homecoming queen, sorority president, the daughter who brought home successful boyfriends and impressive achievements. I was the bookish one, the shy one, the daughter who disappointed our image-obsessed mother by choosing books over beauty pageants. When I got engaged to Michael after 3 years of quietly perfect dating, I thought maybe, finally, it would be my turn to shine. My turn to be celebrated, to have a day that was about me instead of always being Jessica's supporting character. I was so naive. The wedding planning started innocently enough. Jessica insisted on accompanying me to every venue visit, every dress fitting, every vendor meeting. At first, I was grateful for her expertise and connections. She negotiated better prices, found vendors I never would have discovered, and seemed genuinely excited about my big day. "Sarah deserves the absolute best," she'd tell vendors, her charm turned up to maximum. "This is going to be the wedding of the century." But slowly, things started to feel off. When we visited the florist, Jessica spent 40 minutes discussing her own preferences, talking about how she'd definitely want something more sophisticated for her own future wedding. When we went dress shopping, she kept steering me towards styles that looked better on her when she tried them on just to see. When we met with the photographer, she made sure he got several shots of her for portfolio purposes. The caterer was where I first noticed something seriously wrong. "So, for the rehearsal dinner," Jessica said, pulling out her phone to check her calendar, "I was thinking we should do it at Chez Laurent. I already called and made a reservation.
I blinkte her.
But we decided on the church hall. It's more budget-friendly, and Michael's parents specifically said they wanted to host something simple." Jessica waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, honey, you can't have your rehearsal dinner in some dingy church basement. What will people think? I already told everyone it would be at Chez Laurent." "Everyone?" I asked. "What everyone? We haven't even sent invitations yet." Jessica's face went slightly pink. "Well, I mentioned it to a few people. You know how these things get around." That night, I called Michael, feeling confused and hurt. "She's taking over everything," I told him. "It's like she's planning her own wedding, not mine." Michael was quiet for a moment. "Sarah, you know I love you, and I want you to have the wedding you dream of. But maybe we should talk to Jessica about boundaries?" But I couldn't bring myself to confront her. My whole life, Jessica had been the strong one, the successful one, the one who got what she wanted. Standing up to her felt impossible. The breaking point came during the final dress fitting. I'd found my dream dress, simple, elegant, and within my budget. It wasn't the most expensive gown in the shop, but when I put it on, I felt beautiful. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was the one who deserved to be the center of attention. Jessica had insisted on coming to the final fitting, claiming she needed to see how her maid of honor dress looked with mine. But when I came out of the dressing room, Jessica wasn't looking at me. She was talking to the shop owner, holding a different dress. This one, she was saying, would be so much better for Sarah's figure. The one she chose is just, well, it's not very flattering, is it? My heart stopped. The dress she was holding was beautiful, a $4,000 designer gown that was completely out of my price range. It was also exactly the style Jessica had admired when we'd first started shopping. I'm sorry, the shop owner said, looking between us uncomfortably, but your sister already paid for her dress. We can't exchange it now without a significant restocking fee. Of course we can work something out, Jessica said, pulling out her credit card. I'll cover the difference. I just want my little sister to look perfect on her big day. The words were sweet, but something in her tone made my skin crawl. She wasn't trying to help me. She was trying to control me. And worse, she was doing it in a way that made me look ungrateful if I refused. Jessica, I said quietly, I love my dress. I don't want to change it. Her smile became strained. Sarah, honey, trust me on this. I know it looks good. This dress will photograph so much better. I said no. The shop owner looked like she wanted to disappear. Jessica's face went through several expressions: surprise, annoyance, and then something that looked like calculation. Fine, she said, putting away her credit card. If you want to look mediocre on your wedding day, that's your choice. I should have known then that Jessica wouldn't let it go. I should have realized that my sister, who had never accepted no as an answer in her entire life, wouldn't start now. The week before the wedding, everything started falling apart. First, the florist called to say there had been a miscommunication about my order. Instead of the simple wildflower arrangements I'd chosen, they had prepared elaborate orchid centerpieces that cost 3 times as much. When I protested, they said someone from my family had called to upgrade the order and that payment was due immediately. Then the caterer called. Same story. Someone had changed the menu from the modest buffet we'd planned to a 5-course plated dinner with premium upgrades. The cost had tripled overnight. The photographer, the band, the cake decorator, everyone had received calls from someone claiming to represent me, making expensive changes that I'd never authorized. It was a woman, the photographer told me when I called in a panic. She said she was your sister and that money was no object because this was your dream wedding. My dream wedding was turning into a financial nightmare. The upgrades Jessica had secretly ordered would cost more than Michael and I made in 6 months combined. We'd have to go into massive debt or cancel the wedding entirely. When I confronted Jessica, she was ready with an explanation. Oh, honey, I was just trying to help, she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. I knew you were too shy to ask for what you really wanted, so I thought I'd handle it. Don't worry about the money. I can loan it to you. Loan it to me, I repeated. Jessica, you changed everything without asking me. This isn't the wedding I wanted. Her mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw something cold in her eyes. Sarah, let's be honest. The wedding you wanted was pathetic. A church hall buffet? Grocery store flowers? What would people think of our family? They'd think we were being responsible with our budget. They'd think we were cheap, Jessica snapped. And I'm not going to let you embarrass our family because you have no sense of style or standards. The conversation spiraled from there. Jessica accused me of being ungrateful for all her help. I accused her of sabotaging my wedding to make herself feel important. We ended up screaming at each other in her pristine living room while her designer furniture looked on like silent witnesses to our family's dysfunction.
Fine.
Jessica finally shouted, "Plan your own pathetic wedding. See if I care." She stormed out, leaving me alone with the mess she'd created and a wedding that was now 5 days away. Michael and I spent the next 3 days frantically trying to undo Jessica's changes. Some vendors were understanding. Others demanded payment for the upgrades that had already been ordered. We managed to scale back most of the expenses, but we were still looking at costs far beyond our original budget. Maybe we should postpone, Michael suggested gently as we sat in my apartment surrounded by wedding planning chaos. Take some time to figure this out properly. I almost agreed. The stress was overwhelming, the financial pressure was crushing, and the thought of walking down the aisle knowing my own sister had tried to sabotage my happiness was heartbreaking. But then I realized something important. If I postponed, Jessica would win. She'd succeeded in making my wedding about her drama instead of my happiness. And I wasn't going to let that happen. No, I said firmly. We're getting married this weekend, with or without Jessica's help. What I didn't know was that Jessica had one final card to play. The morning of my wedding, as I was getting ready in the bridal suite at our venue, Jessica showed up. She was carrying her maid of honor dress and wearing an expression of contrite sisterly love. "Sarah," she said, her eyes brimming with what looked like genuine tears, "I am so sorry about this week. I got carried away trying to help, and I ruined everything. Please let me make it up to you. Let me be your maid of honor, like we planned." I wanted to say no. Every instinct I had was screaming that this was another manipulation. But she was my sister, and despite everything, I loved her. And maybe she really was sorry. "Okay," I said quietly. "But Jessica, no more surprises. No more changes. This is my day." She hugged me, and for a moment, I thought maybe we could salvage our relationship. Maybe the sister I'd always wanted to have was finally showing up. I was so wrong. The ceremony was beautiful despite all the chaos of the week. Michael looked handsome and nervous at the altar. Our families and friends filled the church with love and laughter, and when I walked down the aisle in my simple, perfect dress, I felt like the most beautiful woman in the world. Jessica stood beside me as my maid of honor, smiling and supportive, holding my bouquet during the vows and adjusting my train when needed. For once in our lives, she seemed genuinely happy to be in a supporting role. The problem started at the reception. During the cocktail hour, I noticed Jessica talking intensely with several wedding guests, including some of Michael's relatives I barely knew. She was animated, gesturing frequently, and people seemed shocked by whatever she was telling them. "What's Jessica talking to everyone about?" I asked Michael during a quiet moment. He frowned, looking across the room where Jessica was now deep in conversation with my college friends. "I don't know, but people keep giving us weird looks." The weirdness escalated during dinner. Conversations would stop abruptly when Michael or I approached groups of guests. People were whispering, casting glances in our direction, and the atmosphere felt strangely tense for a wedding reception. It all came to a head during the speeches. Jessica had insisted on giving a maid of honor speech, despite the fact that we'd barely spoken in the weeks leading up to the wedding. When she stood up with the microphone, she was radiant, confident, beautiful, commanding the room's attention in the way she'd always been able to do. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her voice warm and engaging. "I'm Jessica, Sarah's older sister, and I have the honor of being her maid of honor tonight." The crowd settled in to listen, expecting the usual sisterly anecdotes and well wishes. "I've known Sarah her whole life," Jessica continued, "and I've watched her grow from a shy little girl into the woman she is today. Sarah has always been different from me, quieter, more reserved. She's always preferred books to people, libraries to parties." I felt a chill run down my spine. This wasn't sounding like a typical maid of honor speech. "But what you might not know about my dear sister," Jessica said, her smile becoming sharper, "is just how desperate she's always been for attention, for love, for someone, anyone, to choose her first." Michael grabbed my hand under the table. The room was dead silent now, sensing that something was very wrong. "In fact," Jessica continued, her voice carrying clearly across the stunned reception, Sarah was so desperate to get married that she was willing to steal someone else's boyfriend to do it. My blood turned to ice. The room erupted in shocked murmurs, but Jessica wasn't finished. You see, Michael and I have a history that Sarah conveniently forgot to mention to any of you. Michael and I dated for 6 months before Sarah ever met him. We were serious, talking about moving in together, meeting each other's families. But then Michael started coming to the library where Sarah worked, and my sweet, innocent little sister decided she wanted what I had. The lies flowed out of her like poison. According to Jessica's version of events, I had systematically seduced Michael away from her, pretending to be his friend while undermining their relationship. She painted a picture of me as a manipulative, desperate woman who had stolen her sister's boyfriend and then had the audacity to ask that same sister to be her maid of honor. So here's to Sarah and Michael, Jessica concluded, raising her champagne glass with a brilliant smile. May your marriage be built on a stronger foundation than the lies that brought you together. The silence that followed was deafening. 200 wedding guests stared at me, their faces showing shock, confusion, and judgment. My new mother-in-law looked horrified. My own mother appeared to be in shock. But the worst part was seeing doubt creep into the faces of people I cared about. People who had known me for years were looking at me like they weren't sure who I really was. I stood up slowly, my legs shaking. Michael rose with me, his face pale but his hand steady on my back. Jessica, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. That's an interesting story. There's just one problem with it. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. With hands that were somehow not trembling, I scrolled to a specific photo and held it up for the room to see. This is a picture from Michael's birthday party 2 years ago, I said, my voice growing stronger. The party where Michael and I met for the first time. Jessica, would you like to explain why you're in this photo, with your arm around David Martinez, your boyfriend of 8 months at the time? The photo clearly showed Jessica with David, the real estate developer she'd been dating seriously for most of the previous year. Michael was in the background, talking to other people, clearly not romantically involved with anyone. Or maybe, I continued, pulling up another photo. You'd like to explain this picture from Jessica's housewarming party, where she introduced Michael to everyone as my friend Sarah's new boyfriend, and spent the evening bragging about how she'd played matchmaker? The room's energy shifted dramatically. People were now looking at Jessica with suspicion instead of me with judgment. Jessica's face had gone white, her composure finally cracking. Sarah, you're taking those pictures out of context. Or this one? I interrupted, showing a screenshot of a text message. This is from Jessica's phone to our mother, sent 3 weeks after Michael and I started dating. Quote, Sarah's new boyfriend is so perfect for her. I'm so proud of myself for introducing them. I might actually be a good matchmaker. The silence now was different, not shocked, but expectant. People were waiting to see how Jessica would respond to being caught in such elaborate lies. But Jessica wasn't done fighting. Those pictures don't tell the whole story, she said, her voice shrill now. Michael and I had a connection and understanding. Jessica, Michael said, speaking publicly for the first time since her speech began. His voice was calm but firm. You introduced me to Sarah because you thought we'd be a good match. You were dating David. You were never my girlfriend. We never went on a single date. We were barely even friends. That's not, Jessica started. And furthermore, Michael continued, the reason Sarah and I haven't spoken to you much in the past month isn't because we're hiding some guilty secret. It's because you've been sabotaging our wedding, changing our vendors, running up bills we couldn't afford, and trying to control our special day. The room was buzzing now with shocked whispers. People were looking at Jessica with disgust instead of sympathy, but I still wasn't done. There was one more truth that needed to come out. The real reason Jessica had tried so hard to destroy my wedding. Jessica, I said, my voice steady and clear, would you like to tell everyone the real reason you're so upset about my marriage? Or should I? Her face went from white to red to white again. She looked trapped, desperate, and for the first time in our lives, powerless. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. I pulled out one more piece of evidence, a letter I'd found while cleaning out our childhood bedroom the week before the wedding. A letter Jessica had written to our mother but apparently never sent, dated just 2 months earlier. "This is a letter Jessica wrote but never sent," I announced to the room. In it, she confesses that she's been lying about her success, her income, and her financial situation for years. Her real estate business is failing. She's behind on her mortgage payments. She's been borrowing money from multiple family members without telling any of us about the others. Jessica lunged for the letter, but I held it away from her. The letter goes on to explain that Jessica has been stealing money from our grandmother's care fund, money that was supposed to pay for Grandma Rose's nursing home expenses. She's taken over $30,000 in the past year. The room erupted in shocked gasps and angry murmurs. Our grandmother was beloved by everyone in our family, and the idea that Jessica had been stealing from her care fund was unthinkable. "But here's the part that explains everything," I continued, my voice carrying over the noise. "Jessica was planning to ask Michael and me for a large loan after our wedding. She figured that as newlyweds, we'd be emotionally vulnerable and family-focused, and she could manipulate us into giving her money we couldn't afford to lose." "That's not true," Jessica screamed, but her face told a different story. When she realized that sabotaging our wedding planning wasn't going to break us up, I said, she decided to destroy my reputation instead. If everyone believed I was a manipulative husband-stealer, Michael would leave me, I'd be devastated, and she could swoop in as the supportive sister offering comfort and asking for financial help. The room was dead silent now, everyone staring at Jessica with expressions ranging from disgust to pity. "Is this true?" our mother asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Jessica, did you steal from Grandma Rose?" Jessica looked around the room, seeing the condemnation on every face, and something broke inside her. The mask of perfection she'd worn her entire life finally shattered completely. "You don't understand," she said, her voice desperate and shrill. "I've worked so hard for everything I have. I've always been the successful one, the pretty one, the one who had it all together. Sarah was supposed to be the failure. She was supposed to be the one who needed help." The admission hung in the air like poison. "I built my whole life around being better than everyone else," Jessica continued, seeming unable to stop the words from pouring out. "And then little Sarah, quiet, boring Sarah, found happiness. Real happiness. While my life was falling apart, she was getting everything I was supposed to have. She was crying now, ugly tears that ruined her perfect makeup. I just wanted someone to need me," she whispered. "I wanted to be important to someone. But everyone loves Sarah now, and no one even notices that I'm drowning." The room was silent except for Jessica's sobs. Despite everything she'd done, despite the lies and the sabotage and the theft, I felt a stab of pity for my sister. Her whole identity had been built on being superior to me, and when that foundation cracked, she'd lost herself completely. But pity wasn't the same as forgiveness. "Jessica," I said gently, "you need help. Professional help. And you need to make things right with Grandma Rose." She looked up at me, mascara streaming down her face, and for a moment she looked like the little girl she'd once been, before the competition, before the jealousy, before the need to be perfect had poisoned everything between us. "Sarah," she whispered, "I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far." "Yes, you did," I said sadly. "You meant for it to go exactly this far. You just didn't expect to get caught." Security had to escort Jessica from the venue as she had a complete breakdown, screaming accusations and apologies in equal measure. The reception continued, but the mood was subdued, everyone processing what they'd witnessed. Later that night, in our hotel room, Michael and I finally had a moment alone to process everything that had happened. "I'm so sorry," he said, holding me close. "Your own sister tried to destroy our wedding day." "She tried." I agreed. "But she didn't succeed. We're married, we're happy, and everyone knows the truth now." "Are you okay?" he asked. I know how much you wanted a relationship with Jessica. I considered the question seriously. Was I okay? My sister had betrayed me in the most public, humiliating way possible. She'd stolen from our grandmother, lied to our entire family, and tried to manipulate me into financial ruin. Our relationship was probably irreparable, but I was also free. Free from the constant competition, free from walking on eggshells around Jessica's ego, free from trying to earn love from someone who saw me as a threat instead of a sister. "Yeah," I said finally. "I think I am okay. Better than okay, actually." The aftermath was swift and decisive. Our mother, horrified by what she'd learned, insisted that Jessica enter therapy and make full restitution to our grandmother's care fund. Jessica lost her real estate license due to financial irregularities that came to light during the family investigation. She had to sell her condo and move back in with our parents while she tried to rebuild her life from scratch. Our grandmother, when she learned what had happened, was surprisingly philosophical about it. "Jessica always needed to be special," she said, patting my hand with her wrinkled fingers. "But she never learned that being special comes from what you give to the world, not what you take from it." Some family members wanted to press charges against Jessica for the theft, but Grandma Rose refused. "She's still my granddaughter," she said firmly. "She needs help, not jail." Michael and I used the money from our returned wedding deposits to take an extended honeymoon, 3 weeks in Europe, just the two of us, healing from the drama and celebrating our new life together. When we returned, Jessica had started therapy and was working as a waitress while living with our parents. She'd written me a long letter apologizing for everything, explaining her financial and emotional problems, and asking for a chance to rebuild our relationship. I read the letter twice, then put it away without responding. Maybe someday I'd be ready to forgive her. But that day wasn't today. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal quickly. 6 months later, I was browsing social media when I saw a post from one of Jessica's old friends. It was a photo from a party, and there was Jessica, not dressed in designer clothes, but in a simple dress that looked like it came from a department store. She was smiling, but it was different from her old smile. Less perfect, more genuine. The caption read, "So proud of Jess for completing her first 6 months of therapy and starting her new job at the community center. It's amazing what happens when you start helping other people instead of just helping yourself." I stared at the photo for a long time, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Hope, maybe. Cautious optimism that the sister I'd always wanted might finally be emerging from the wreckage of the person Jessica had thought she needed to be. But I wasn't ready to reach out yet. Trust, once broken so completely, takes time to rebuild. Maybe someday we'd have a real relationship, built on honesty instead of competition. Maybe someday I'd be able to think of Jessica as my sister instead of my former saboteur. A year later, Michael and I renewed our vows in a small, private ceremony, just us, our parents, and a few close friends. It was everything our original wedding should have been: simple, heartfelt, and focused on our love instead of family drama. Yes, I walked down the aisle in the same dress Jessica had once criticized. I felt nothing but gratitude. Grateful for a husband who stood by me through crisis, grateful for the family members who chose truth over drama, and even grateful, in a strange way, for Jessica's betrayal, because in trying to destroy my happiness, Jessica had actually freed me from the prison of seeking her approval. In exposing her lies, I'd learned to trust my own judgment. In surviving her sabotage, I discovered a strength I never knew I had. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most end up giving us the greatest gifts. They show us who we really are when everything else is stripped away. 2 years later, Jessica sent me a birthday card with a simple message: I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know that I'm proud of the woman you've become. Love, your sister. I kept the card, but I still didn't respond. Some wounds need more time to heal, but for the first time since that terrible wedding day, I signed it Sarah instead of throwing it away. And maybe, just maybe, that was a start.